Good morning. We are on to Chapter 11, Transforming Teacher Education in the Virtual World. I think this is an interesting chapter. We're on the back end of the semester here, last few weeks. As I've said several times throughout the semester, your text is a bit outdated. I don't know, 8 to 10 years, give or take. And sometimes some of the things the text brings up are, just outdated. However, I think this chapter, while it seems outdated, has many strong parallels to us currently living in a post-pandemic world. So, a lot of what the chapter brings up is that online physical education was severely lacking around the 2010 period. And what we can see, you guys know better than anyone, was that online teacher education was severely lacking going into the pandemic. And you saw there was a broad range of teacher approaches and really just teacher preparation during and after the pandemic. So let's get into it. The text kind of just outlines a kind of landscape for you guys, like Pete, right? Physical education, teacher education. What it says is we need to have a minimum of 1 semester of internship, and the goal of this internship is to really apply your learned knowledge and skills. Now, the traditional route is an internship experience that is in person. This is your capstone, and this absolutely still makes sense. However, the times are a-changing, so to speak, and the text argues that we can no longer just have a internship experience in person for physical education. So then it starts to throw some stats at you, where it says in 2010, it should say over 8 million students took at least one online course in K through 12. And this is anything, it's not just physical education. And that was in 2010. Imagine what that looks like now. All right, 10,000 students in Florida alone took physical education as their online requirement. Online teacher education programs, however, have not really kept up with this trend. So what this means is that we have not educated teachers to teach online, right? So at the time in 2010, this really created kind of, and even to this day, we don't have these concrete standards just yet. And I think these are going to, whether it's NESTE or ISTE, like they have changed and they have made improvements. I think they're going to continue to change over the next, 5 to 10 years. It's a continuously changing landscape. All right. Online education is increasing by about 30% per year. Like St. Peter's, for instance, we're putting together this online St. Peter's University thing. I don't even know what it's going to look like, right? But in the next few years, there's going to be even more and more classes that are put online at St. Peter's. I've talked to some of the people at St. Peter's, and the amount of course offerings that are online today versus 5 to 7 years ago is just a dramatic difference, right? A dramatic difference. Where I'm getting my PhD, right? I'm getting a PhD in interprofessional health sciences, right? I started the program and it was a in-person course. That PhD program is now 100% online, right? And this is going to continuously change. We're at a very weird time, and the pandemic has just accelerated that. So, because of these changes, right? And I continuously say physical education, right? But I do think this goes well beyond physical education. Um, Doctor, nutritionist, physical therapist, you guys have to be able to navigate in an online landscape. Yes, you're going to have to do telehealth, online health, like the things like that, right? So within your school, you need to be exposed to cutting edge technology that will help prepare you for the workforce. I would argue you guys are going to be more prepared than anyone because you went through it, right? You spent 2 years, year and a half, whatever it is, taking classes online or hybrid formats, whatever it was. So you guys were, and the best part is you guys had teachers in every course doing a variety of teaching modalities and methodologies. So you guys got the best and the worst. So hopefully you guys kind of learned some things. That's going to be one of your assignments for next week, which we'll get to then. All right. Now, online physical education, right? The text kind of argues that it is great for students. Right now we're talking about students in K through 12, right? So students in K through 12 can work at their own pace. Another major benefit is to avoid uncomfortable situations. Now, for some of these, I tend to disagree, right? So things like performing skills in front of peers. I mean, I think that's kind of life, and I think people need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Again, I come from a sports dominant background where I coach 100 athletes, and they need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. But again, that's my opinion. Changing clothes, sure, that's fine. I understand that. Participate in content they find uninteresting. Well, that kind of happens as well. And being in an unsafe emotional environment. Absolutely, I think, some people can, I don't know, feel threatened when a coach or a physical educator kind of call them out for doing something wrong. But I don't know, it's just about creating a fun environment. And I do think it's important that, students at the high school level, at the middle school level, just start to get comfortable in person and are being around other people. So, I don't really agree with the text in this aspect, but again, I've said that several times this semester. I don't agree with the text all the time. So the next few slides, we really just talk about a pilot study in, 2010 from the University of South Florida. And really what it was is it was physical education students undergraduate students at the University of South Florida. And their internship experience was where they were paired with a cooperating teacher and taught physical education online. So there was 29 undergraduate students paired with a mentor, and what they had to do was they taught 8 to 10 hours per week for a period of 7 weeks. So what did this entail? Well, it was an online course that was divided into 2 segments, and each segment had 4 modules. So an example of potential modules could be cardiovascular fitness, nutrition, wellness, flexibility, so on and so forth. There's many more. Pay attention to this format because this is going to be one of your assignments. Each module contained 3 to 5 interactive lessons. So for cardiovascular fitness, there could have been 3 to 5 interactive lessons. And then there might have been some take-home assignments they had to submit to apply those take-home principles. Right? And then to supplement, again, this is a physical education class, right? To supplement, students, again, K through 12 students, had to maintain their workout log, complete written and oral assignments. Okay. Now, the interns, the college interns, had to constantly communicate with their cooperating teacher on a weekly basis. They also had to grade assignments. The minimum was 10 graded assignments per week, but some interns had to do all of the grading for the entirety of the semester. And I think the unique part of this online experience that I think gave a little bit more of an individual touch were these student phone calls, which again, this is why this is outdated. This would definitely be more of like a student Zoom session, right? So there was 4 different types of phone calls that this pilot utilized, right? One was welcome calls or welcome sessions. So this would be a teacher meeting with students and parents and kind of just welcoming them and introducing them to the online physical education course. The next were monthly calls. So this would be parents or guardians meeting with the teacher, meeting with, in this case, the intern, and updating them with how the students were doing. What is this similar to? This would be similar to, I don't know, meet the teacher night or something along those lines. Tracking calls, right? This is to the students and or parents, just tracking them based on how they're doing for the semester. And then there's individual assignment calls, which were meant to go to the student to just make sure they're up to date with instructions or submitting the assignment, following the instructions correctly, so on and so forth. After the 7 weeks, overall, it was a very positive experience for the interns, right? Going into this online internship, many were not happy, right? Where 68% had medium to low comfort levels with online teaching. But by the end, 86% had medium to high comfort levels with online teaching. And this is really the goal of any internship, truth be told. If you guys are thrown into a classroom, if you guys are thrown into a strength and conditioning facility as an intern, if you guys are thrown into your clinical assignments as a physical therapist, okay, in the beginning, you should feel uncomfortable, right? Because the vast majority of you guys don't have that real world exposure. But by the end, we want you to have a medium to high comfort level. We want you, that's the whole goal, because these are usually done within the last year, or with you being 12 months removed from entering the workforce. Okay. Some concerns, there was 2 major concerns for online physical education. One was authenticity and cheating. I can tell you right now, cheating absolutely increased. I mean, I don't have any data on it, but I can tell you right now, anecdotally, I saw it. People just kind of copying, pasting Google, right? I said it many times to students. So that is a thing that we still have to deal with to this day. The next thing for the interns, right, was workload management. And I kind of struggle with this a little bit. Not just workload management, but with online teaching, you essentially have to be available 24/7, right? How many times do you guys email a professor, and what's your expected return on that email? Do you guys expect a response within an hour? Within 24 hours? Within 48 hours? If you send an email on a Friday night, do you expect to get a response on Saturday? And I think it can be difficult within an online environment where it has to be relatively quick. My goal is to always respond to your emails in 24 hours. It doesn't always happen, right? But my goal is 24 hours. So there's certain times where I have to respond to emails at 8 or 9 p.m. at night. There's absolutely, you guys know, I've respond to your emails on Saturday or Sunday mornings. So with online teaching, there's got to be a system, I think, for every student on how they manage grading, on how they manage putting out lesson plans, and then obviously how they manage things like those student phone calls. All right, so quick one today. We've got 2 assignments. One, very simple, right? And there's no right or wrong, right? So you guys are going to go onto the discussion board and just give me your thoughts on online physical education for students, right? For students. So, how do you feel about someone in 5th grade taking an online physical education class? Someone in 10th grade taking an online physical education class? What are your thoughts on that, right? The next thing, and this one can be a little, I don't know, I want you to be honest, right? Thoughts on online physical education, teacher education. So have you guys been prepared to teach online? So this is a technology class in health and physical education, right? That's what this class is. This class is not a capstone by any means, right? There's no sort of internship. It's meant to introduce you to many different things. I gave you guys things throughout the semester. I gave you guys iPhone games like Zombies and Pokemon Go. We explored some of the aspects of social media, the pros and the cons. But this was absolutely not a capstone. Do you guys feel, some of you guys are juniors and seniors, that you are prepared to engage in a virtual world going forward? What could have been improved? What did you like? What didn't you like? Right? So I think for both of these, right, there's 2 separate questions. I don't know, about a short paragraph, 4, 5, 6 sentences each. Again, there is no right or wrong. Now, your assignment, which will take a little bit more time, okay? So we're going to follow the pilot study from the University of South Florida, right? Where you're going to write out, quote unquote, one segment for online teaching for K through 12, right? And again, you could pick what you want it to be more specifically. So the segment is going to have two separate modules. If you followed closely during this PowerPoint, you know that a segment had 4 modules. You're only doing 2. Each module should have 3 to 5 interactive lessons. Okay, and I'm going to show you guys examples. And then it should have a workout log, written and oral assignments, so on and so forth. How are you going to grade them? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys an example, right? This should not be a ridiculously time-consuming assignment, right? So here was mine. I, for instance, have had to teach strength and conditioning online. It's again, in my opinion, a lot of this stuff, physical education, strength and conditioning, should be done in person, but we had to adapt. So again, I definitely did not prefer it, but one module, one chapter that I had to teach when I was teaching strength and conditioning was sports assessment. Okay, so what I would do and what you guys would do for this module is put together a very short PowerPoint or written blurb about sports assessment, right? So what's the purpose of assessment in sports, right? Validity, reliability, why is it important to test people? After that, examples of assessment. So I'd have a PowerPoint, just one slide with every type of assessment and what we're assessing. So I could put in the PACER test. Oh, it's a test of cardiovascular fitness. I could put in the sit and reach. It's a test of flexibility. I could put in the 1 repetition maximum. It's a test of strength, upper or lower body. Right? So these are examples of assessments that I'm educating students on. Again, this was for I think a freshman or sophomore college class, but this can be applied, I think, in some cases to like juniors and seniors in high school. And then an application of assessment piece. So how, in the PowerPoint, how would I apply the assessment? Okay, how would I apply the PACER test? So then my interactive lessons are pretty simple. It's my individual tests, right? So what I would have students do is I would have them video themselves setting up and doing the PACER test. Now, they could edit it. It doesn't have to be the full test, right? Another interactive lesson would be the 4-quadrant agility test or the pro agility test, and they would have to video themselves, right? The pro agility test takes, I don't know, 5 seconds, something like that. They could send a video of that, right? Then the written piece, how do I grade them? Well, they have to score it correctly. They would have to find the appropriate percentile ranking, and then they would have to provide a interpretation of that percentile ranking and recommendations. So simply put, if somebody ranks in the bottom quartile of the pro agility test, we can make recommendations that we need to do certain exercises that are going to improve their agility. Okay. So that's one module, right? Obviously, I'm not giving you guys the PowerPoint, right? So there should be a PowerPoint that talks about the purpose of assessment, the examples of assessment application, right? You guys are going to have to do that. It doesn't take that long, right? You know what? And I'm going to backtrack a little bit, right? Because we are at the end of the semester and you guys have other things going on. Just give me one module instead of 2, right? And I'll make sure I write this up as well. Just give me one module, just like I did here. Again, I do need the PowerPoint, and that's pretty much it. All right. If you guys have questions, because I understand this can be a little confusing, let me know, and I will respond again within 24 hours.